Let's talk about. There's a few things we can talk about, and I won't take up much of your time. First of all, were you at the press conference today?
Was I at the what?
Were you at the press conference today?
No, I was not actually, but I talked to Nathan directly afterwards.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing by any means. You know, Nate pushes Donald Cerrone here at the pre-fight press conference today, knocked his hat off. You know, minor altercation, and that's, you know, the world is becoming used to these types of things when it comes to Nick and Nate. But I'm wondering, from a coach's standpoint, what are your thoughts when that stuff goes down? Does that make you nervous, or does that anger you, upset you, or are you just kind of used to it?
Kind of used to it, really. But, I mean, I'll tell you my thoughts on it. I never like to see, it's like kind of what Dana White said, I never like to see people actually touching each other before a fight. You know what I mean? Like physically touching. And the reason being is because then you might get a fight before the fight. And then what happens, then there won't be a fight. So everybody, you know, people don't get paid, the fans miss out, and it's kind of, you know, it's not really a good idea. So I don't like people it ever escalating to the point where there's hitting, you know. Now, that thing, I guess Cerrone said something, you know, kind of, that's what I heard, you know, I'm going to get up in that ass or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, it's like, dude, really? You want to get up in someone's ass, you know? Well, maybe you should be doing Brokeback Mountain instead of, you know, fighting or something with that cowboy hat on. But, you know, so I can understand, you know, Nate's not going to get punked like that or anything like, you know, he's not going to let a guy talk to him like that, whether it's at a fight, at the street, the mall, it doesn't matter. But, yeah, I never like to see guys actually fighting before a fight. It's not a good idea.
Right. Do you ever worry? I mean, you know these guys more than most people. They're pretty reclusive as far as the media and letting the world in on their personal lives. But do you ever worry that time will come where it escalates beyond just a shove, you know, in one of these stare downs? Or do you think that, you know, even though they're so passionate about what they do, that at the end of the day they're able to keep a cool head as far as that goes?
I think they can keep a pretty cool head about it. I'm always worried about stuff like that. Like I said, I don't think it's professional. Mm-hmm. It definitely has put a lot of attention on this fight, and I can pretty much guarantee fireworks, you know, coming up on Friday. So, but, you know, it takes two. It really does. And, you know, you shouldn't talk to some other adult male like that, you know, when you're talking about, you know, fighting. I think Cerrone kind of went over the line. I think his story of what happened when Nathan didn't shake his hand, I don't know if he's using that story to pump himself up or what, but, you know, according to Nathan, that never happened. He didn't want to sit there and be buddies with the guy because he knows he's got to fight him. But he never said those things that he allegedly said. And I think you know, Cerrone might be a little scared, to be honest with you. All that bravado and all that talking shows some insecurity in my mind, you know, and he's trying to pump himself up and get past that, and that's what it's looking like at this point. But yeah, you know, as far as fighting is concerned, I'd rather focus on that, you know, and the guy Donald, he's you know, he's got some skill and everything, and Nathan's a skilled fighter, and they're both very passionate, and you know, so I'm looking forward to a good fight.
Okay, and what do you think about the fight overall, and more specifically how Nathan matches up with Donald?
It's interesting. On the ground, Nathan is definitely better than him, but Cerrone has a few things he does pretty good. And what you got to do when you fight a guy like that is just make sure you don't get caught up in those few things that guy does good. You know, it's like you've never trained with him. You don't know what he does well, what he doesn't. So you got to find out on the fly. And you just got to come into the fight really just careful with what that guy does well. You know, he might be a one-trick pony on the ground, actually, but you got to make sure you don't get caught in that one trick. Now, standing up, guy's a decent kickboxer. He's not great, but he's good. He's an athletic person, and you know, he comes to bring it. Wrestling, he shoots a double leg. That's about it, really. He's not a well-versed wrestler, but he gets the job done because he explodes into that double. It's more like a double leg tackle, so you got to be careful with that one. And you know, good knees, left hook. He's got tools, and it's a good matchup. But Nathan is used to all of that stuff too, And I truly believe Nathan has the bigger fights under his belt, where he lost really close decisions. He won some of those fights, but I think he's fought the better opponents.
Right. Now, you're a coach / manager who always tries to position his fighters into really good position, really good spots as far as matchups and getting them into contention and shots at the title. So I'm wondering, where do you think a win over Cerrone puts Nate in the lightweight division, and what will you push for him after this fight?
Every fight I never look past the fight, number one. I never go, he's going to win against this guy and he's going to do this, because if it doesn't happen, you're setting yourself up for a lot more disappointment than you should have to handle. But, theoretically, if he gets past this guy, beats him, which I think will probably happen, he's right up there in contendership status, actually, and he should be fighting the Ben Hendersons of the world, or whoever is a champ at the time, whether it's Frankie Edgar. And it's almost like I'd rather have Henderson win at this point, so that Nathan or Gilbert, if he came over eventually, one of these guys would fight, Henderson or someone else like that. Because Frankie's been to my gym, he's part of my cousin's team. We're really one big team and everything.
Right.
I'd rather my guys fight people that aren't part of our affiliation thing. And Frankie's a guy I like, and but if it's for the title, you got to just suck it up, and it's kind of like the BJ Penn thing almost. You guys are fighting. We'll see how it affects your relationship afterwards, and that's just the way it is, because you got the belt, and this guy thinks he's better than you. So, yeah.
Okay, and this is Nate's the second fight back down at lightweight. So I'm just wondering, are you happy that he's back down there? He had the stint in welterweight where he kind of had some mixed results. He did good in the beginning, and then he dropped some some pretty tough losses there in the final two fights.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he went 2-2. He went 2 for 2, I believe it was.
Yeah.
He wanted to go back to 155 a long time ago. 155 used to really hurt him to get down to. He was walking around too heavy, and to get to 155, it was sapping his strength. And after the Maynard fight, I said, man, I thought he probably won that fight, to be honest with you. But
yeah, I did too.
That just wasn't the Nathan I'm used to, the guy that goes and goes and goes. He looked a little lethargic in the third round, it seemed like to me. So I said, hey, let's bump it up to 170. Now, while all of this happening, he went to 170, looked great, but then we changed his diet. He changed his diet. And he went to, he's eating a lot more raw foods, no gluten, raw foods, no milk. He's pretty much a vegetarian except for fish, so I think it's pescatarian they call it. And then all of a sudden he couldn't keep weight on. And then 170 was too big for him. He was walking around at 173 and fighting at 170. It was ridiculous. So he was a smaller opponent out there, and even though he did drop a couple of decisions, he the Dong Young with the Korean guy, Dong Kim and then later he got thrown around by that other dude, the Canadian guy in the ring. It's like, hey, you don't have the strength to be with the 170 pounders. So, like I said, though, he wanted to fight at 155 before that, but the UFC, oh man, he's looking great at 170. Let's keep him there. You know what I mean? And he was trying to, before that, go down. So it kind of worked out good that he's back at 155 now.
Okay, perfect. And then just about Nate's overall progression as a mixed martial artist. I mean, yeah, he has one of the very best fighters in his brother, Nick Diaz, and I'm wondering, it's always an interesting thing to kind of ponder, will he follow in Nick's footsteps, or being that he may be has Nick to learn from as far as mistakes and bring positives out, is his potential more so than his brother's? What do you think there?
Pretty much only time will tell about that stuff. Both of these guys are going to be around for a while, and they live a really clean lifestyle. They eat really good food. You see a lot of these guys that they're on the scene for a few years, and they're going up, and all of a sudden they go straight down, because they don't live a good lifestyle. They party a lot, they drink a lot, they do drugs, they eat terribly, and, they come and go. But guys like Nick and Nate, they look really clean, and they're out there doing triathlons, and just it's a lifestyle to them. It's not a flash in the pan thing. It's like this is what they do. This is how they're going to live their life, if there was fighting or not. So I plan on seeing them for many years because they really take care of themselves. And we'll see. Nathan has unlimited potential. He's just going to get better and better. He's still very young, and he's going to continue to improve. Right.
I mean, not the funny thing, but the interesting thing with them is, I mean, they're almost like fighting style-wise, mirror images of each other. But the older brother and Nick is, a little more technical in all areas, but he's also had more time at it than Nate. So that's basically where I was going with that question. Nate still has room to improve. Do you see that improvement from fight to fight?
Yes. Nate, yeah, he's got a lot of room to improve on his ground game, on his takedowns, his boxing, and he is improving. And I think in the next couple of years, he's going to be an absolute monster. So I'm looking forward to that and to see the transition to that, and he just keeps getting better every single year. Awesome.
Well, that's good news for Nate fans. Let me ask you this a little bit off topic, just while I have you on the phone here. As far as this Nick and Carlos Condit fight goes, what's your reaction to the fact that GSP had to pull out? I mean, you commented on this a few times with other media guys, but not with us here at BJPenn.com. So what were your thoughts, and what was Nick's thoughts when he lost the GSP fight for the second time around?
I think it's disappointing. I think we've all expected that fight to happen, and it isn't happening. It's always something. I wish GSP a speedy recovery. I guess he got a knee operation and everything. So, and then he's got good doctors, and hopefully, what I'm hoping for is that Nick gets past Condit and puts that guy away, and then the very next fight is going to be GSP. Now, other stuff, it's like I said, it's disappointing. There's a lot of things. GSP was out there saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then the very next day he's pulling out of the fight. It's like, okay, well, you knew you were hurt before that, and you were saying you were going to do something. But, it's stuff like that. It's, you just got to go with take life as it is and roll with the punches. And, we'll see what happens after, like I said, I can't look past Condit right now.
Right. What do you think about Condit? And this is a fight. It's going to be a 5-round fight for the interim title. Are you happy that they put up an interim belt? And what do you think about Condit as, an opponent for Nick and how they match up?
It's really interesting because I think Condit is very similar to Cerrone, the way they do things. I think he's a more polished version of the two, and obviously bigger, fighting in a heavier weight class. So, this is going to give us some insight on what these guys are practicing and everything. But, again, he's got really good stand-up skills. He hits hard. He's an athletic person, and he's an overall tough guy, But Nick is that and more. Mm-hmm.
And as far as being for the interim title, are you happy that the UFC is putting up a belt for this fight? Or does it matter?
I've never been a big fan of interim titles, but it is what it is, I've kind of talked about the GSP thing. Well, what if he's out for 2 years? At what point do they, go, oh, you're the champ now? I mean, it's one of those things. But it's just another fight, and Nick has always been about not so much belts, but beating who is perceived as the best people out there. So GSP is perceived to be the number one guy. He's been beating everybody, and one way or another he wins. So Nick wants to fight him if he had the belt or not, if GSP had the belt or not.
Right.
So the interim belt is, I guess it's, you need a champ after a guy is out for this long. And, that's it is what it is.
Okay. And then my last question, Cesar, and I'll let you go. You've been gracious with your time tonight. Who do you think is the tougher fight for Nick? I mean, you have in GSP, you have the one aspect that you really have to worry about in his takedowns and his wrestling, and Carlos Condit seems maybe like more of a dangerous guy in more areas. due to his finishing rate and the way he finishes people. So I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on that, and what do you think as far as who's the more difficult guy to prepare Nick for?
Well, Condit is more difficult standing. Like who might beat you, with throwing punches and kicks. Who might cut you? Who might beat you there? Who might from the bottom? I haven't really seen GSP's bottom game, so I don't think he works it that much. He's a comfortable guy on top, and if he's on bottom, he's looking to get back on top. So Condit has some stuff there. He'll try to slip a triangle choke real quick on you and do something like that. GSP is more apt to put you on bottom and to try to ground and pound you and try to beat you that way. So I guess the more dangerous guy, if you're looking at percentages to lose to, is probably GSP, because he can hold you down and kind of throw some punches and probably get the decision or, something like that, whereas Condit is more dangerous in actually finishing a fight. So each guy brings something to the table like that.
Okay. All right, perfect, Cesar. That's pretty much all I have. You've given me a lot of material here. Is there anything I missed that maybe you want to say, you want to get out there before I let you go?
Nope, that's about it, man.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you for your time, man.